Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Until now, legal billing costs have been very opaque. The law firms really bill what they bill, with corporate clients historically just paying the bills because they have no tools to decipher what they're paying for and whether the rates make sense. That has now changed. Joining me to discuss is Raj Goyle, co-founder and CEO of Bodhala. Raj, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks so much for having me, Jill. Excited to be here.
Now, Raj, you're a former state representative from Kansas who, in fact, once ran against Mike Pompeo. Now you run a tech firm. How'd that happen, and what is it that your company does?
Yeah, well, when people ask me that, I often joke that, how I got into politics and then tech. I think my mom dropped me onto my head when I was born, but it's not very funny because she's an obstetrician, actually. So, she views that as a bit of a malpractice claim. But, in politics, when I got into politics, I very much wanted to solve problems. And that's really what motivated me. And I think actually motivates a lot of people when they get into politics. And I saw that in my community. I saw that in my party. And I thought that's something I wanted to do. And similarly in the law, I'm a graduate of Harvard Law School. My wife's a partner at a law firm. My co-founder and I know this industry intimately, and we know that it's fundamentally broken. And we know that actually for your viewers, when you're a company, there's not really a two-sided marketplace as it should be when it comes to your legal bills. It's really just one-sided. And so we knew that there was a big appetite and demand for data and transparency to make sure that companies could optimize the spend category.
Now, some of your clients include private equity firms, insurers, that's correct?
Yes. We're very fortunate to partner with some of the largest companies in the world and some of the obviously smaller ones as well. But we have some incredible use cases where very sophisticated corporate legal departments that are using very sophisticated outside law firms are using our platform to optimize things that really people thought were always off limits and were completely out of touch and that were purely relationship based. But now we've cracked the code on that and we're seeing great results.
Well, Raj, why isn't there greater transparency in the legal industry? You would think of all industries, transparency would be key.
Well, it's one of those things, Jill, where it's kind of like inertia. It's just been that way decade after decade after decade. And so nobody ever stopped and thought and said, wait a second here, I actually think we should do something about this. And let's just say, and I say this as a lawyer, lawyers aren't exactly the most innovative, foot forward class of folks. And as an industry, the other big factor, Jill, here is technology. So 5 years ago, our company wouldn't have been possible. The cost of cloud computing, machine learning, big data, it would have been too large and would have been too large a mountain for us to climb as founders of a technology company. Now, because it's fractions of what it used to cost 10 to 20 years ago, we can crank unbelievably large amounts of data. We have $20 billion of outside counsel spend data in our platform, run algorithms against it, and give insights to our clients.
Well, Raj, it's so interesting that you bring up what we could not have done if it was 3 to 5 years ago. And respective to COVID-19, let's put it into that context, how quickly companies were able to pivot because of the technology available. Look at what you and I are doing, for example, right? We didn't know what Zoom was 3 to 5 years ago. And because of cloud technology, we're able to have these conversations, and a lot of companies were able to pivot and survive. So when it comes to the legal landscape, how did COVID-19 impact that for companies?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, you mentioned my political background in government. There's a phrase that you don't let a good crisis go to waste. And so what's happening here in COVID, as you mentioned, we're all innovating. We're all determining what's really essential. How do we work in this environment? And I think for your viewers, what's really interesting is that people don't even understand the size of the legal sector. It's a $500 billion globally. And in North America, about $250 billion. And here's what's fascinating. After the last global financial crisis, profit per partner at law firms actually increased. And so there's a saying in the law, when you flip a coin, heads the lawyer wins, tails the lawyer wins. And so what's really interesting about COVID is this is the first time, Jill, I think in really industry history, what our data is showing is that law firms are going to have to share the pain. No longer will the C-suite and the board sit back and say, oh, well, my business is getting crushed. I don't have anybody walking through my businesses, but somehow I'm going to give my law firm a yearly raise. I mean, every law firm believes that it is their birthright to get a raise in their hourly rate every year, and that's their economic model. And we believe in very important relationships and collaborations between our clients and their outside law firms, but we also believe that there's a market that must exist, and so therefore those services can be valued and optimized law firms that are innovative and foot forward will win in this game, but others who are just stuck in the past will have more trouble.
Yeah, really interesting insight, Raj. Thanks so much for joining us on Trade Talks.
Awesome to be here. Thank you, Jill.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.